A-League men's action returns to Gosford this weekend. Mariners hosting Macarthur FC this coming Sunday, Arvo, at Industry Group Stadium. 2 games left for the season for the Mariners, in the A-League season at least. Coming up against Macarthur FC, who are 2 places ahead of us on the ladder. Of course, Mariners, as we know, this season is done in terms of qualifying for finals, which, we got that sense for some time, but mathematically now completely out of the equation. Now it's all about, trying to get the points necessary to lift ourselves as high as possible in the ladder. Obviously looking at Newcastle Jets and where they sit. And of course, we do have to touch on last week's result in today's video, which we will be doing briefly. But obviously Newcastle Jets got that win in the F3 Derby last week. Mariners, we can still grab 6 points from these last couple of games. That could see us finish outside that bottom 4. And we know that's super important because the bottom 4 teams go to the Australia Cup playoffs. And those details have just been confirmed this week. Those matches will be taking place next month in May, which is a big change. Usually the Australia Cup playoffs take place in July, which is really early on in pre-season. They're tough matches for A-League teams, travelling to Darwin in hot conditions and playing those matches early on in pre-season. Now coming at the end of the A-League season, which is a good change. I like it, but we want to make sure we avoid that and qualify straight into the Australia Cup. So if we can jump above Newcastle Jets and send them back to 10th place, possibly in these last couple of weeks, that'd be great to see. But it has to start this weekend with a win against Macarthur FC. And the big thing is, heading into this weekend, is that we do need to see a response after last week. We need to see a response, not just a result, but just from the team. How is this team going to respond after last week's astonishing performance and results? It's a big test. And especially considering that, there are only 2 games left and we are out of the finals race. It's a big test, I think, for Mark Jackson to make sure that he keeps this team, keeps their spirits high and keeps this team competitive. Because, look, Macarthur this week and then Brisbane next week, the following couple of weeks later, I should say as well, we've got the bye after this. But 2 winnable games here to finish the season. It would be a good way to turn things around after last week's shocking result with a couple of wins at home, especially for the fans. For the fans more than anything. I mean, the fans were the ones that, we even saw in that post-match press conference from Mark Jackson last week, how he opened that press conference with an apology to the fans, which I think was needed after what we saw last week. So, of course, we do have to talk about it. Mariners last week against Newcastle Jets 6-0. My review for that game is on the channel, which you can check out. But not much has to be said. We know how terrible that performance was. We know how unacceptable it was as well. And look, for a lot of this season, there has been, some small changes to the side throughout the campaign. For the last few weeks, it's been pretty stable, the lineup. We did see that one change last week with Miguel DePizio coming in for Vejao. This coming week, we might see the most amount of changes to the starting 11 I think we've seen all season. For me personally, I think there's some big calls to be made from Mark Jackson, and especially with a couple of games remaining. In the situation we are in, this is an opportunity to rotate things and play youth anyway. Regardless of last week's result, you do want to see a bit of rotation to finish off the season if we are out of the finals race and give more minutes to young players. So looking at the bench from last week, I'm looking at the likes of Faisal, of Nico Duarte, even Lucas Chicluna, who's had limited minutes this season. Diesel Harrington. I've been really impressed with Harrington with the limited minutes that he's got also. He's featured here and there, coming in often when, one of our defenders has been injured, whether it's, Nathan Paul or Trent Sainsbury. Harrington's had some minutes, but he's been starved of minutes on the field for the Mariners in recent weeks. An opportunity for these guys to come in. And I think for some of the maybe more experienced players to get a rest here as well. And even some players who aren't even on the bench, looking at the likes of, Arthur DeLima, Bailey Brantman. Again, there was periods of time this season where both of those guys looked like they had a pretty decent spot in the team. Remember the midway part of the season, DeLima was starting games. He came off the bench against Brisbane away. I remember he started away to Wellington. So there's an opportunity for some of these young guys to come in and make an impact. And I'd love to see Mark Jackson make those changes and drop some names that we maybe usually see start week in, week out for the Mariners, because the team and the performance from last week was just ridiculous and unacceptable. And I think changes have to be made. So hopefully we do see some changes. But I think even if we do make those changes, we still have a team capable of getting a result against Macarthur FC. Let's talk about the away team for this matchup. Macarthur, they are still in the finals race. They had a lot of change in the halfway through the season, mid-season transfer window, a lot of departures. The big one being Valjean, who actually left after the transfer window closed, and that was a big bombshell for the Bulls. Not only, their leading goal scorer in club history for Macarthur, but their captain also. They've responded really well since going through that adversity. Economides has been playing striker. They've also got Harry Sawyer as well. Two tricky players. Marin Jakalic, real danger player to watch. This is their last game a couple of weeks ago against Brisbane. He grabbed a hat-trick and has been grabbing a lot of assists, Marin Jakalic, and he's been playing off that left-hand side, so big test for whoever starts on the right-hand side. Now, at the time of this recording, I don't think we've got any injury news about Mikael Docker. Obviously, he came off against Newcastle. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. I don't think we've heard anything. The news has been revealed, at least at the time of this recording. Storm Roux will not feature for the rest of this season. He's received a 3-game suspension after that red card in the F3 derby as well. So, is there even an opportunity for someone like Sasha Kazewski to return to the team? We haven't seen him for some weeks now in the senior team. But as you can see there, they've got a good balance of youth and experience. Dean Bosniak, an exciting young player. Kelly Adamson's one of the best right backs in the league. We know Luke Bratton is a very solid defensive midfielder and generally a pretty tight back line as well. Tommy Uskok, Kevin Bolly as well, Ivan Vujic. So these guys are very solid defenders. And Philip Kodo, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the league. So it will take Mariners attackers to really step up their game if we're going to make a breakthrough here against Macarthur. That is for sure. So whether it is either Kuala or Duarte to step up in that forward position for Mariners, they will have a test on their hands. But it will be a tricky test. But still, regardless, again, I think we have what it takes to match Macarthur FC. Look, the other change we might see for the Mariners is Hayne Eames returning. Obviously, he has missed the last few games because he's been over with the Joeys, the under-17s at the Under-17 Asian Cup. So we expect Hayne Eames, if he's injury-free, to be returning to the team, which would be a great boost, and I imagine he would slot straight into that starting 11, for me at least. He's certainly one for the future. He's been one of the bright lights for Mariners this season in what has been a poor season overall. So, Macarthur FC this weekend. Can we finish the season with a couple of victories? Again, we want to try and avoid that bottom four, and if we can finish above Newcastle Jets, yes, we know the Jets have the game in hand there, but we're going to finish this season on a bright note. And more importantly, after last week, just respond. Just respond. Even if we go down to a loss, if we put in an admirable performance, give the fans something to cheer about, score some goals. If we can manage that, I think we'll take it at this point. I think we will. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks very much for tuning in. Hit the like button on the way out. My name's Lockie, and I'll see you in the next one.